Looking at the dumbbell Planetary Messier 27. I spent some time sharpening up the focus. There still could be some issues as temperatures continue to drop. I am using 150 f8 Eddy, the Skywatcher semi-apochromatic refractor this evening. I will be doing a tour of NGCs, beginning with NGC 7200 and seeing if I can rapidly capture them using 5-second exposures through the ZWO system this evening. Let me move on from here. Currently the time is 8:23. I don't expect sky dark for maybe another 10 or 20 minutes, but let's go ahead because I am getting such a good view of Messier 27 that it seems like we should just go right ahead and launch into it. And here we're having a 150x view of a very striking crescent nebula, NGC 6888. Studies that are very like the Dumbbell Nebula, like the Ring Nebula, and now the Crescent Nebula. I love to start off with in the beginning of an observing session, but tonight I have to be very economizing with time to squeeze in everything that I can from 30 degrees south latitude to 45 degrees north in the NGC 7200 series. It took me about 20 minutes to go from NGC 7200 to 7249. I was beset by clouds most of the time. The sky's a little darker and better transparency now at about 9:21. What you're looking at now is the Witch's Broom. This is not a bad view. We're not using any kind of filter other than the Optolong, which filters out some sky pollution from the neighborhood and the town of John Day. NGC 6960 is a supernova remnant, Cygnus. I've captured it before. This is probably the best view. However, we are operating at 30-second exposure time, and look how sharp the stars look. Very little elongation. As a whole, the 6960, what is called the Western Veil, is magnitude 7, 210 by 160 arc minutes in size, 1,500 light years distant. The nova went off about 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. We're at right ascension 20 hours, 45 minutes, 50 seconds with a declination of plus 30 degrees, 42 minutes, and 30 seconds. I'll be adding this to what I do save of the Dumbbell and the Crescent Nebula captured early on before the clouds started encroaching in the sky overhead. So let me go ahead and see if I can capture more of the supernova remnant, otherwise known as the Veil Nebula in Cygnus. That bright star, by the way, I believe is 52 Cygni, but I'd have to check that. Here we're seeing a nice tiny remnant of a continuation of the Veil complex. This is NGC 6974. 1,500 light years distant, like the rest of the Veil. Right ascension 20 hours, 51 minutes, 4 seconds, with a declination of plus 31 degrees, 49 minutes, and 42 seconds. I did not jot down the declination of the previous study, but obviously this is a little more east and possibly a little more north or south of the Western Veil, which was NGC 69. I believe it was 60. So let me go ahead and see if there's more of this remnant we can image. We are seeing some of it right now. Brilliant. Here, I'm hoping we're going to see NGC 6979, part of the Veil complex. I do believe I am making it out towards the center of the field. Very vague. 3 by 2 arc minutes, 1,500 light years distant, but there's no magnitude, no value added here. It's at 20 hours, 50 minutes, 28 seconds with a declination of plus 32 degrees, 1 minute, 36. Definitely further north than the previous study, and also a bit further to the east. Well, all right, we're getting a very luscious view of the Eastern Veil complex. NGC 6992 in Cygnus, magnitude 7. 60 by 8 arc minutes, once again, 1,500 light years distant. We're at right ascension 20 hours, 56 minutes, 19 seconds, and a declination of plus 31 degrees, 44 minutes, 36 seconds. Keep in mind, we are exposing this to 30 seconds of light gathering. Over the course of that time, we may not get many stacks, but that view is spectacular. The mount is tracking extremely well, and the triangulation of the imaging ZWO system in combination with the ASI Studio is doing an impeccable job of triangulating and stacking the images. That is very beautiful view of NGC 6992. I do believe that's the last in the Veil Complex NGCs. I will make a check, and then we're going to have a look at some galaxies again. Hopefully the sky is clear in the direction we will be pointing the scope. There is, in fact, one further extension of the Veil Complex, NGC 6995, magnitude 7, some 12 arc minutes in size. Looks like it's probably just this little loopy area here, but there's plenty of extended nebulosity going off there at 12 arc minutes. I want to show you what magnification I'm at. This is 20% is, 2/10 of 150. It's probably got to be around 60x because it's 30x at 20% in El Quattro. Anyway, so if we're operating at 30%, I would say we're probably operating somewhere around 80, 90x. I'll have to look into that. We're at NGC, as I said, NGC 6995. Right ascension 205710 with a declination of 31 degrees, 13 minutes, 6 seconds. A spectacular view with color. Love it. Let's move on to some galaxies now. NGC 7331. But it might be intriguing to back off on the exposure time with this last view to get a sense of how 30 seconds has revealed more than 10 seconds, for instance, would, and 5. So give me a moment on that. Astonishingly, a 10-second exposure reveals nothing of the NGC 6995. Let's hop over to 6990 now, which is the brightest component of the Veil Complex, and see what we get at 10-second exposure times. Well, in fiddling with the histogram, we are starting to bring out quite a bit of the nebulosity at 10 seconds as well. So let's see if I can make a few more adjustments to improve the visual aesthetic of the image. Looks like I have to push the gray quite a bit. There's a good view right there. So that's 6995. Let's hop over. So I really have to pay attention to the histogram when it comes to changing from one exposure time to the next in order to bring out the view. We are getting a series of stacks on this, which should help improve the presentation as well. Let's go to 6990 now for a final view of the Veil Complex using the current settings in the histogram, hopefully. A rather decent view of NGC 6992, the Eastern Veil as well. Stars look great. 10-second exposure time, maybe not quite as present as it was at 30 seconds, but the histogram held up rather well. So once you set it up, if the sky doesn't vary too much, the histogram should hold from one study to the next. Stars look very nice too. So basically, this is a nice, probably about a 30 arc minute field of the brightest component with the greatest amount of texture in the Veil Complex of Cygnus. All right, here we're getting a 10-second view at 150x of NGC 7217, Galaxy and Pegasus, that I did image using El Quattro, the Fast Newt, this previous night. Magnitude 10.1, 4 by 3.4 arc minute spire with a lowercase b, 47 million light years distant, puts it at about 50,000 light years in diameter. As an SB, it's twice removed from the lenticular, so I do believe that 10.1 obviously is visual magnitude. Its right ascension is 22 hours, 7 minutes, 52 seconds with a declination of plus 31 degrees, 21 minutes, 32 seconds. As far as I can tell, most of those clouds have moved on. There could be a slight thin haze. I will be including an image from various scopes, including the Rev 2 and this very refractor. Plus the ZWO image from El Quattro of the previous evening for comparison. The stars look very nice here. 50% e-zoom is 150x, but if we want to push this to where it can go, this is a 300x view through the f8 refractor. And that is not bad. There's quite a bit of extension in this galaxy. NGC 7217. Let's go to 7331 now. Okay, continuing to use the histogram settings based on the Veil complex. Here is our 10-second view of NGC 7331. This is our 150x view, which is at only 50% e-zoom. So we are losing, but we are getting a bit of the smile here in the dark lane. I'd say the view is comparable, although we're getting some extension in the stars due to the fact I moved around. I'm going to pause this for a second and see if we can restack to eliminate the comatose features of the stars. Okay, here's a nice pointillistic star version. And right there we can still see that supernova that went off on July 13th. One of the things we're missing here, because we're only operating at 50% e-zoom, is we're not taking full advantage of all the pixels. Let's push it up to 300x at 100% e-zoom. Now we're starting to bring out some faint nebulosity, perhaps unsuspected previously. There's quite a bit of swirlage here. Very interesting about this galaxy. It has a bit of a dark bar spiral here from the spiral arm coming around. And the core seems to sink into the rest of the galaxy rather than obtruding up. It's a pretty decent view of NGC 7331, 10-second exposure, probably equivalent to about a 36-inch scope or so. I'm going to go ahead and drop it down to a 5-second exposure so I can compare it to something I may have captured earlier. Okay, 5-second exposures are what I'll be using when I actually resume my NGC tour. That exposure time is about twice that of the Rev 2 system. I've captured an image on it, but the Rev 2 system was operating at 75x or so, I thought. Anyway, so here we're going to push this up to 300x, so we're using all our pixels. We still have our supernova remnant. We're not quite making out the spile, and the galaxy doesn't seem to be sinking in as it did at 10 seconds exposure time. But probably could be a little better if the sky was more transparent. I am not quite. There are some high thin clouds overhead, so we are losing a little bit of luminosity. Well, this is a 30-second view. We're back to having high thin clouds overhead. I am going to say with this view, Carpe Noctem.